Ollie, I think we've been following each other for a little while on the socials, and we met face to face a few months ago. I was instantly impressed with your passion for the betting industry. So I'm very pleased that you've agreed to talk to me because I want to sort of understand what drives you and how you've ended up in the industry. So yeah, thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you for having me on. Yeah, it was great to meet you in person at Smart Bash.
That's it. Yeah, a couple of beers and yeah, a lot of like-minded opinions going around. So, what is the first sort of memory you've got of like being able to bet on sport?
The first memory I would have is probably going to a point-to-point when I was maybe kind of 7 or 8 years old. I'm
Yeah.
sure I probably placed a bet on my parents' behalf or something like that. It wouldn't have been something that I'd picked out, but that would kind of be the first time I'd ever seen a betting slip or anything like that.
Do you remember which event, which track it was?
It would have either been the Garthorpe or Dingley point-to-point,
Yeah,
kind of around Leicestershire way, if
yeah,
anyone knows where that is.
yeah. I crashed a car into Toaster racetrack. That's not far away from you, is it?
No, yeah, not too far.
There was one tree on the perimeter, and I managed to find it. But yeah, so I've seen you with your father, I think, at Twickenham from quite a young age as well. Was he sort of? Is that right? Was that your father at Twickenham?
It was. I think my father was taking the photos with my godfather and grandfather in that photo. So I went to watch Leicester Tigers in the Premiership final, being a big Tigers fan, and I suddenly realised the last time I'd been to watch them in a final was 10 years ago, and managed to dig out that photo, and just to show how times have changed.
Crazy. And so was your father into sort of betting or mathematics, or your grandfather was an influence, or was it just the sport that sort of inspired you?
I would say they're both kind of mathematical minds, but not kind of in a betting capacity. Just always played sports growing up and always played rugby. So and Leicester being the local team to me, with their success when I was younger, it was a good combination.
Yeah. And were you a rugby player?
I played when I was growing up, but I don't still play now.
And what about, is that you on your LinkedIn batting? There's a decent cricketer on your page.
Yeah, that's a picture of me playing cricket. I'd say that was my main sport growing up. I still do some coaching when I get a chance to at the moment, which I really enjoy.
And is that that looks like quite a high level of cricket? What sort of standard is that?
That was when I was playing for Barkby in Division 1 of Leicestershire. So
Right.
the top division in Leicestershire is the Premier League, and then Division 1's the one below that.
What was your highest score?
My highest score would be 110, but that was in a junior game, and then 99 in a senior game. So yet to cross the milestone.
99 and out?
Yeah, 99 and out.
Brutal. How are you out?
It's caught sweeping.
Yeesh.
Brought all the field up when I was on 99 and smashed it straight to square leg.
Wow, nervous 90s. Great though. So like, do you remember like what your first actual bet was then?
I think my first ever bet would have been an accumulator of some form, probably just looking at the weekend sport. I remember at the time, in my head at least, I would have been trying to find stuff that was value, or I'd have had an idea of the price, but it wouldn't have been value. It would have been a negative EV bet. But I do remember still thinking at the time, that price looks a bit too short, although I think that price is slightly too big. It inevitably was the correct price or with margin applied, but I like to think that I was thinking about it at the time.
And would that have been online or in a high street? Do you remember?
That would have been online.
Yeah. And so what was that, a football hacker?
It would have been a mixture. I remember placing on a few times with my dad, and he quite likes watching American football, so he might pick a couple of American football matches, and I might pick a couple of rugby ones or a couple of football ones, and kind of a mixture of maybe 6 teams, a couple from each sport.
Yeah, nice. And do you know, like, since you've been betting, whether, and you can avoid this if you don't want to give it away, but are you an all-time winner on certain sports? Are there some sports that you lose on, but you still bet because you enjoy them? Did you track all your bets sort of analytically?
I would say I'm a net winner. Kind of have tracked a lot of my stuff since I've been doing it much more seriously. But there'd still be sports that I would be down on, and different sports that would be more profitable. But yet to kind of see if that's just variance or whether I've not got an edge that I think I've got in that sport.
So do you think the sports that you've been quite good at in terms of the rugby and the cricket, is there any things that you see from your own hands-on experience that helps you in the betting sides?
Potentially, I did some in-play cricket stuff, but I've struggled with latency issues and things like that. And I would say I've got a good understanding of the game in that sense. Actually, rugby was a sport I ended up being down on last season, but I managed to beat the closing line, I think 70% of the time. So I'm kind of just putting that down to variance. But the amount I would be staking is much less than I'm sure some more high-profile people. So it's probably easier for me to bet slightly earlier on in the week for the stakes.
So that's very disciplined then, to see that you're beating the closing line, but you've got a negative ROI, but you're still confident in it. Is there anything that will make you stop betting on a sport? Are there any sort of signals that make you think, right, I need to stop that one?
I would get to the stage where perhaps for some rugby matches where if the liquidity is quite low, then the confidence of the closing line price is obviously lower as well. So at that stage, then you might start to reevaluate or look at different ways of measuring kind of the value that you deem that you're getting. But sometimes, for example, a points market, I wouldn't necessarily be getting closing line on that if you were betting at kickoff or something like that.
So is most of your betting done on the exchange then?
For rugby, most of it is. Other sports that I bet on predominantly would also be exchanges, but in shops as well if I want to bet with a soft book.
Yeah. Okay. And so what's the bet that, in your sort of betting history so far, where you really want to brag about it, pat yourself on the back, you've done the research, you thought what was going to happen, and it did come through? And any ones that really stand out?
There's one a couple of weeks ago in the Lions Australia third test where I'd kind of seen the weather forecast and had half an eye on betting the unders as soon as it went in play, but just wanted to kind of watch the first 5 minutes with my own eyes, just check that what kind of that the weather was supposed to be happening or actually was happening, and managed to get on the unders in the third test. So that ended up being, I'd say, quite a good selection.
Right.
Nothing particularly mathematically sophisticated in that, just an understanding of kind of what happens in those weather conditions.
So that was on the unders points?
Unders points. I think I got under 43.5 after 5 minutes.
Right. Okay.
So maybe ended up 30 points, 35 points, somewhere around there.
And was that, but presumably that was quite close to a 50-50 line, was it?
Yeah, that would have been the 50-50 line. I think maybe it started at 45, and then after a couple of minutes, the line had gone to 43, and I thought I'd seen enough.
Right, but there must have been a big price that you've hit somewhere. Anything better than an even money shot?
The highest price winner was a bad each way horse race when I had an online Paddy Power account. I think that was 3 figures, but it's one that it's when I first started out betting, and I was just kind of taking some each way value.
Nice.
And you're just taking it, thinking of the win part's kind of irrelevant. I suppose you're thinking it's just the place part that you're hoping comes in. And then I remember watching it and thinking, are you sure it's not the horse I've bet out in the lead? Double checking the number and the name. So that would be the kind of biggest price, but I wouldn't say as satisfying as maybe some other stuff.
That's brilliant. That's exactly what I'm talking about at the beginning, when I knew you had a passion for this industry, because you list the even money shot where you've done your research ahead of a 3-figure 100-to-1 shot that was no credit to you. So you know when to pat yourself on the back and when to say, oh, that's nothing to do with me.
Yeah, definitely. I find it kind of sometimes, if you find something that wouldn't go into a model, that can actually be more satisfying than if you have a model and you're just kind of following a price that an Excel sheet or Python code spits out, basically.
Yeah. Did you write Python, do you?
A little bit when I need to, but I wouldn't say I'm particularly or as skilled as I would like to be. But can kind of get around with it for stuff I need to, with a bit of help from Chat GPT as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Too many people are still relying on spreadsheets in this industry. It's crazy, and running simulations that take 45 minutes when you can do it in 0.4 of a second. So what about the other side, where you've done all your research, you think you've got it nailed on, and you've had a bad beat?
I wouldn't say this would have been a particularly bad beat, but there was a rugby match where I wanted to bet Saracens actually against Leicester last year, but I wanted to bet it as close to kickoff as I could, because I thought price was going to drift, even though I kind of had a different opinion. He got to kickoff and I placed the bet, and then 2 minutes into the game, it comes up on commentary that I think it was Riccioni, the Italian tight head prop, and Alex Good, the fly half, were injured in the warm-up. And then that was suddenly dawned, that's probably why the price has drifted to something that I think is value, but actually you'd rather be on the other side. So that would not necessarily a bad beat because it was a bad bet that I placed, but just frustrates me deeply that I'd missed something that kind of I could have just seen if I'd have been a bit more attentive.
Yeah. So you've been a lot of action on the exchanges that you've mentioned. Is that because you've been restricted with all the soft books?
Yeah, I've been restricted by the soft books, which have markets that kind of I would want to bet on. I'm sure there are some kind of brands that might be on the end of odds checker that I've maybe not utilised an account with, just because perhaps they don't offer stuff that I would want to bet on.
Yeah, fair enough. And if you do have like an active soft book, do you have a favourite that you still sort of admire the functionality of?
I like Bet365's app. I just find it very easy to utilise. But I wouldn't say a particular favourite. I'm not a massive fan of William Hill's app, but it's kind of a minor thing. Just find it sometimes hard to locate markets that you're looking for, or maybe they'd say that's a good thing if they're not markets they want to take bets on.
It's crazy. It's sometimes some of these sites don't even have a search function, but I think Bet365 does get the nod from almost everyone I speak to. So they're doing something right. So do you have a sort of experience of, I mean, this is what England fans sort of experience every 2 years in international football tournaments, where you have a conflict of, and especially with your rugby betting as well, when you're supporting a team where you're cheering on a team that you want to win from sort of personal level, but you think they're value to oppose them in the betting. Do you have a sort of strategy for dealing with that?
I personally don't have too much of a problem with it. In the way I like to paint it to myself is I'm either happy that the team I support wins or kind of financially happy in that sense. Obviously, the ideal situation is you find the team that you support's value, so it's kind of happy days. But if not, I'm quite strict, and I wouldn't not bet something just because it was against the team I supported.
Great. Again, the discipline there is good. And do you feel that do you have sort of recreational bets that are purely for fun, just because there's something on, you don't particularly have a view, but you just think it will enhance your enjoyment of what you're watching, even if you haven't really got an opinion?
Yeah, occasionally, perhaps if it was final day of the season in the Premier League, or just kind of something across 10 games, just for interest or something like that, but kind of smaller stakes, like you say, just for interest.
Yeah, and presumably you wouldn't track that. You wouldn't track the performance of that. Is that just sort of like a separate bank, if you like, where you just got recreational money that you don't really worry about?
Yeah, it's just more for interest. It would be kind of, a few pounds. So I wouldn't be kind of worrying over that.
So you mentioned the smart bash at the beginning, and a question I like to ask people is, because there's such a sort of wide spectrum of expertise in this industry, and if you could ask an individual just one question that would reveal to you how much they know about sports betting, what would that be?
I'd ask somebody, assuming they're English and understand each way betting, probably describe your perfect bad each way race and ask which selection they would bet on, or ask a question along those lines. Maybe, would you bet something that if it was evens each way, and see what the response was? And if they said, if the place is kind of 1.02, then the true place price is 1.02, then I'd bet it, because you're getting 1.2 for the place.
Ollie, I reckon that's a very high bar you set there. I reckon a lot of people would stumble.
Yeah, I do find it amusing when if you see a tipster put up something and it's clearly a very snide bet and it's bad each way, and people are kind of going, "What? You've lost your marbles betting each way below 5-1 or whatever the kind of arbitrary figure is." Find that interesting and slightly amusing.
So what is the? I saw a tweet where it was quite amusing. You said that a perfect day out in London is not going to the theatre or going down the South Bank and having a nice meal. It was doing a betting shop run. Talk me through that one.
Yeah, so growing up in Rutland in the countryside, there aren't many betting shops nearby or not at ease. And this was before I'd moved to London, and went with the family to London last Christmas. And I think it was a Wednesday, so the golf started on Thursday. So I was able to get some golf bets that I wanted to place down in shops. So I was the kind of jokey tweet saying it's the favourite part about going.
So would you hit a few of the shops, like have a decent sort of session going through different parts of town?
It would more be if you could get different bookmaker shops in the same location. I'm not kind of staking enough that I'd want to be betting the same thing in multiple shops. It would be more just if you had like a Ladbrokes and a William Hill's 3 doors apart, then it's easier than driving for me at kind of home where I grew up 20 minutes one way, then 20 minutes the other way, and by the time factor in the time you spent and everything, then it's not really worth it.
Amazing. Yeah. Old school. Love it. And do you ever play sort of exploit your sort of analytical, mathematical edge on anything else, such as poker or the stock market or any sort of other casino games where you can exploit an edge?
No, I mean, I've played poker maybe a handful of times in my life with friends, just incredibly recreationally. I wouldn't say I'd have too much of an interest in it, and similarly with stock market, not massively interested. I wouldn't feel that I'd have any kind of edge or anything like that. So happy to let those that know about it play on it.
Yep. And so you did maths at Exeter, is that right?
Yeah, I studied maths at Exeter for a year and a half, and I really enjoyed the probability and statistics side, but not so much some of the pure maths and stuff that I felt I probably wouldn't use again in my life. And then on the year when I wasn't at uni, when I think the official phrase is kind of interrupted my studies, I went into trading in the summer and ended up listening to lots of podcasts when I was on trains, specifically sports betting ones, and that's when I kind of decided it was the industry I wanted to go into. I'd already done quite a lot of my own personal betting, but at the time I separated that off, being kind of just doing stuff in my free time rather than looking to go into the industry professionally.
So when you went traveling, that's when you sort of made the decision to go into this industry. Were there other things that were sort of teasing you, tempting you to do other directions?
I wouldn't say I had another particular role in mind at the time. I just listened and kind of enjoyed some of the people that spoke and the things they spoke about and the way they thought about things. And I thought I'd like to at least go for work experience and try things out. And that's how I ended up going to do work experience at AK Bets. I really liked the way he spoke. I think he was maybe 8 months into starting out or 6 months into his online website, and just kind of had to pester a couple of times, as he probably had thinking it was spam going into a LinkedIn mailbox, but did manage to get to go over to Ireland, which was amazing, really.
So what was your first role with AK?
I went over to do work experience, and I was in the office for 2 or 3 days, just getting a very broad understanding of everything that happened there, and then went to Laytown races on course for 1 day, which was brilliant, really. So on the beach, a busy meeting, so kind of you're not standing there doing nothing, always occupied doing something or helping out where I could, whether that was kind of running slips over or doing anything like that. But it was great to see how kind of AK operated relative to maybe some of the other bookmakers there.
Brilliant. Still in touch?
Yes, spoke to him in person at Smart Bash as well,
Yeah.
and messaged maybe a couple of times since I went over. But yeah, I'll be kind of forever grateful for that opportunity. Just when it was kind of so new there, and you could see everything in the office. Maybe if the company's slightly bigger now, then perhaps the experience would still be very good, but you might not get to see everything or as much as I was able to do at the time.
Brilliant. Well, good on you for knocking that door down and persevering. So, and do you remember any of the podcasts by name? Which ones they were that you were sort of getting inspired by?
I listened to lots of Simon Knott's Betting People podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
And then from there, I ended up listening to the Smart Betting Club podcast, and then the Bashcast as well. I remember listening to as well, and still listen to those kind of regularly when they come out. I still find them interesting, especially if there are different people that perhaps I've not heard speak before, and hearing their stories.
Yeah, brilliant. And so, like, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, given what you know through the various bits of experience you've had, what would you learned to make your own decisions when you're off traveling, but if you could sort of fast track, would there be one thing that you would tell yourself that you know now?
I think it would be to get a better understanding of variance earlier, and to be able to kind of get to grips with coding earlier as well. Just it always fascinates me when you kind of run a Monte Carlo sim and you see actually how often that you could end up losing on a betting strategy that perhaps maybe didn't quite grasp that at the time, and at the same time learning kind of how to run that sim as well. I think definitely I'd like to have done that earlier on.
Yeah, and the reverse is true, winning with no evidence of skill as well.
Definitely, and it probably maybe I'd have persevered more with strategies, and equally maybe I would have got rid of losing strategies earlier as well. But I suppose that having both of them, they give you learning elements, I suppose. Yeah.
So you've been a football trader as well. So I want to understand sort of what did your job involve in trading football and running? Was that very much sort of model based as opposed to your own opinions?
When I started out, it was quite a manual job trading football in play. Offering kind of a wide range of opta markets as well in play. So shots on target, shots, offsides, and fouls, and then sometimes in bigger matches like the Champions League final, offering goal kicks and throw-ins as well. But I like trading them in play because often in lower profile matches there isn't a comparison with another company.
Right.
So I quite like having the freedom to go with what you think. But going back to kind of the original question, there are kind of it's model run, but you just kind of change the input parameters. So there's still quite a lot of trader decision making involved, but really.
So you could be trading markets that there's literally no other market price available.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So if it was trying to think of an example, maybe at Copa America last year, you could be trading fouls, so both team and match total fouls along with player fouls, and there might not be another comparison in the world.
Brilliant. I mean, that is a very unusual experience to be trading something in this day and age where you don't have a bias or an influence by looking at the Betfair price or another bookmaker's price. It's sort of pure trading.
Yeah, I mean, there'd still be an element of, if you're trading a goals-related market like shots on target or shots, still be looking at how the expected goals for each team are changing. And I don't know, if after 10 minutes one team has steamed in on an Asian handicap, then you'd be thinking I probably should be moving my shot on target prices towards the team that steamed. But other than that, that's kind of if nobody else is offering, that's kind of the only help you've got.
So some of them would be sort of derivatives of those main markets, but some of them would be standalone, and you'd literally just be taking on the punter, and it would be weight of money that would move your book. Yeah,
definitely. Obviously, you could use if there's a cards price and you're trading fouls, then you could make, well, if the cards price is going up, then the fouls price should be going up, or and kind of the more that you trade it, it's kind of classic. The more you do something, the easier it becomes, or the more exposure you get to different game states and matches, then kind of the more you can rely on your past experiences and go,
Sure.
I remember doing this when the favourite went 1-0 down in a match with a similar difference in team ability.
Brilliant. Okay. So do you have a favourite? I think you're sort of on the cutting edge of what is possible in the sport, in the industry, the way it's going. You talk about Python and so on. Do you have a sort of favourite innovation in sports betting that you've used, or that you just think is a good idea?
I quite like now that you can bet on different player props over and under in certain matches, and that would be something that I would like to be much more widespread. I would like it if, for example, it became kind of industry practice that if you offer an overs line, then you should have to offer an unders line, or if you offer a yes, then you should offer a no. I think that makes. I really like that particular innovation more from a kind of betting angle yourself, just because it gives you more opportunity. But I enjoyed the introduction of offering unders as well as overs.
Yeah, I agree. When you get the opportunity to just back the yes side of something at a huge price, sometimes you would rather take the no at a huge. So, are you familiar with the Sharp Betting website? Our website is as well. I like to sort of ask my guests if there's anything on the site that they particularly enjoy using.
I wouldn't say I'm looking at the website particularly often. I quite like it when yourself or Chris post maybe the top rated events on Saturday. I quite like having a look at those, just kind of for my own interest. But I wouldn't say I'm too familiar with that.
So it's the racing side of things, is it?
Coming from somebody that doesn't really have too much in kind of interest in racing, unless it's a high profile meeting, I just quite like looking at it, and just my own interest and knowledge, because I wouldn't usually be having a bet in kind of horse racing, so it's quite nice just to have a look.
And so you mentioned some of those podcasts that you recall. Are there any other sort of like books that you've read that you would recommend to anyone watching that has particularly helped you?
I really like Joseph Buchdahl's Monte Carlo or Bust. I'll imagine that one comes up quite a lot, but definitely found that very interesting to read, and kind of opens your eyes up to different things that I perhaps hadn't thought of before.
Yeah. Any betting movies? It's not really that many to choose from.
Yeah, I don't think I've watched many, to be honest. Like you say, I've probably searched for it before, but not stumbled across anything.
Have you seen The Sting?
I don't think so, no.
It's a 50-year-old classic, and I put that on for the first time just a few weeks ago. It's
okay.
It's okay. It's not quite the classic. I don't know. It's all right. Okay, so the final question, Ollie, is, and a lot of people get confused about this because I think it's a trick question, but if I was to give you 5-1 odds about the toss of a fair coin, heads or tails, and you could transfer me as much or as little as you wanted to right now to bet one time only, what would you stake on that? Heads or tails at 5-1?
Given my age and where I am in life, I think I'd probably be going for 80% of my net worth. But I think it's much easier to give a more positive answer being much younger in life than perhaps if you've got a wife, children, etc. So I think I'll be quite aggressive in this situation.
I think as a percentage, that is a huge amount.
Yeah.
Good on you. Yeah, I won't. I can't now ask you what that is in stake terms, but yeah, that's a big chunk as a percentage. So, if people are watching this and they want to reach out, get in touch with you, follow you, where are you active? Twitter, Insta, LinkedIn. What's the best way?
Twitter or LinkedIn, I would say, would be the best for kind of anyone to reach out if they had any queries or anything they wanted to ask.
And so, what's the rest of 2025 looking like for you then?
Not really got particular goals or aims for the rest of the year. I'm hoping to get involved more with the quantitative analysis side of things. Just definitely kind of broaden my skill set there and look to kind of just become more efficient in any betting processes I've got, basically. rather than kind of expanding into new markets, just looking at kind of how I can make stuff that I do slightly more time efficient and effective.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, look, if there's anything that you think Chris or I can help you with, you know where to find us, and we're certainly putting a good word for you if that can help.
All right, thank you.
All right, Ollie, brilliant. That's half an hour. And yeah, anything else you want to just cover before we wrap up?
No, that's kind of all good on my side. So
brilliant. Well, thanks for your time, and yeah, it was great to meet you in the summer, and yeah, hope to catch up with you again soon.
Thank you, definitely.
Cheers, Ollie.
Cheers.